Hello everyone, welcome back to MAT052. This week we're going to be going over some just basics of two variable statistics. Taking a look at, I've got two sets of data and they're somehow related. I like to think of, adding fertilizer, the amount of fertilizer, and then seeing how much measuring the plant growth and see if there is some relationship between the two. If I add a little more, I should get a little more growth. And so that's kind of what we're going with. So we're going to take two sets of data and basically start building this through and seeing if there was any relationship. So the first thing I would go through was I would do a scatter plot. We're going to look at plotting points, but what I'm basically doing is starting to look at a scatter plot and then types of association between the two data. Okay, so let's kind of go over a review. And if I've got two sets of data and they're kind of related between X and Y, there's going to be a matching. So it's like one, the measurement of how much fertilizer I put, and then the growth of the plant. Okay, so there's always two things. We've already done this where we just plotted a number on a point on the number line, and then we usually followed this up when we were building confidence intervals of something around between two variables or two endpoints. Okay, but now we're going to talk about two sets of data. So we've got an X and a Y that are kind of coupled together. I do something, then I measure, I do something, and I measure, and those two things go together. The thing that the first thing is what I'm going to use is the X value. So I'm going to build, some graph, and this is how I'm going to do this. I'm going to lay out kind of two sets of number lines, a number line this way, and then a number line up here. The horizontal number line, I'm just going to call the X value, and here's the X axis. And then let's say this would be how much fertilizer and then how much growth I would get. And this would be my y-axis. Okay. Here's the origin. The origin I do as 0, 0. So this is the origin. The X value, so anywhere on this little graph I can do by X and Y. The value of the X and then the value of the Y is going to be up through this value. So I put these coordinates, this is a coordinate, a point, and this is going to be saying X is 0, my Y is 0 for there. Okay, and then I'm just going to do off equal points here. So this would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that. Now sometimes I may need this, the scale is not going to be the same. You want the scale to always be the same whether on the x-axis you would always want the scale to be fixed. The y would be ideally the very same, so each one of these lengths would be 1 unit here, but it's not necessarily have to be that way. You may want this to be 100, 200, 300, 400, and this distance would be the same, but that would give you a wider range of values that you could plot. Okay. So the plane represented by the intersection of an X and Y axis is called the Cartesian plane. So this thing that we're looking at here is called the Cartesian plane. And this is the Cartesian coordinate system, okay? These things here are called an ordered pair. Ordered pair because the order matters. So 1, 2 is not the same thing, not equal to 2, 1, okay? So order matters, ordered pairs, okay? So let's take a look and see how we can go through and plot some things. Let me see if mine will work since I've already got that up there. And here in example 1, it says plot the ordered pairs 3, -4, -2, 3. So I stopped basically on here, but this thing can go on. So let me give a little wider version of where we're going because we're going to need some wider values. So here and here, there's my X, there's my Y, X, Y, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, And this way on our -1, -2, -3, -4, how far do I need to go? I need to go one more as -5 when I'm looking at my data over on my sheet. And then I need to go as high, let's see, over to the -5. And I need to go up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 is about all I'm going to need in the Y. And then -4. -1, -2, -3, -4. So this is just a rough picture of where we're going with this. Let me kind of open up my camera a little bit for you. Okay. So let's plot these points. I need to plot 3, -4. Okay. So remember these are X, Y coordinates. Here's the X's, the Y is my vertical. So I want to count over 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I want to go, this is down. If it was 4, I'd go up. 1, 2, 3, -4. So that point would be 3, -4, and I draw a little point just like that. How about -2, 3? So here's my next one, -2, 3, same thing, X, Y. -2, I go this way, and then what I'm going to do, down or up, I'm going to go up 3. So -2, -1, -2, and then 1, 2, 3, straight up. And then I could label that point if I needed to label. 0, 4. 0, 4 is my next coordinate pair. Here X is 0, and then I'm just going to go up 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that has 0 along the x-axis, and then 4 up the y-axis. So if I did this one, I would go over here, that would be the 3, and if I go straight down, that would be -2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. 1, 2, 3, 4. -1, -2, -3, -4. Okay. And then our last one is -5, 0. So I would go to the left, -5, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. And then it says go down 0 or up 0, same thing. I would just label that on the x-axis. The y height is 0. Okay, and that should look pretty much like what we have. Okay. Now what about scatter plots? So scatter plots is the set of data that you have got from your experiment. You run an experiment, and you basically want to put those points on your XY axis. Okay. So here we've got an example 2 in a study of reaction times. The times to respond to both a visual stimulus and an auditory stimulus were recorded. Let X denote the reaction time for the visual stimulus and Y denote the reaction times for the auditory stimulus. Times were measured in thousandths of a second. The results are printed in the following table. And usually you'll have something along the x-axis and want to go, those are your independent variables. Independent means like time. Time is just, ticking away. So you would measure time and then some other. Here, both of these are times, and you're just kind of seeing if there is some relationship between x's and y's. Now this goes pretty big, so I'm not going to try to do out a coordinate system with that kind of scale. So basically I'm going to go here and just take a look at theirs. I may go back in Excel just in a second and then put those in and actually build that scatter plot for you. Okay. But there you see on your data, and then if we went through, and if I kind of see an imaginary, if I took longer on my visual reaction times this way, it took my auditory, what I could hear and react to, it goes up as well. So small numbers down here, and then both of them start to increase. This one increases, and then it goes up here. When you see this and can kind of draw an imaginary line through here, there's some relationship going on. Now, if all of these were just kind of all spotted around, like low here, high up here, low here, high up here, there wouldn't be much of a relationship there to actually observe. So I would like to, instead of just plotting these things, actually build that out in Excel for us. So I'm going to go over here. Give me a second, let Excel come up. Go blank, close this out. Now I want to do this stuff. Thank you. Up. I grabbed the wrong one. I'm going to put this down. And now I'm going to put these in terms of so I'm going to label this. Here's my X. I'm going to put them in a column because I just like working in a column. I continue down instead of scrolling to the right. Okay, so I'm going to put my X along this column. So I'm going to do 159, 206, 232, 174, 205, 185, 226, 208, 187, and then 174. I want to put along my X column. I'm going to do columns instead of having it at horizontal. 162, the matching, 202, 228, 161, 195, 189, 213, 186, 166, and then 182. Same number in each one. Now what I'm going to do is actually generate a scatter plot in Excel. I'm just going to bring this over so I have some more room and we can kind of expand things out. How I do that is I've got my X's and my Y's. I'm going to pull this, I'm going to actually select everything in here. Hold on. I'm going to select everything in here, and then I'm going to go to Insert, and it's going to give me all of these chart options, and I'm going to select these things like here that looks like just little points. So and it says Insert Scatter, and that's kind of what I want. I just want to have the points all plotted out, and that's kind of where these things were. Now we started, you can change where you start from, but you see that kind of that straight line. Okay. So I'm going to put this up for the second. I could have gone through here and did my label. Here's X versus Y. It should have kind of done over X, Y, but that's okay. We can change that and fix that up. So I'm going to put that down for a second. We may come back to it in a minute because I'm going to show you how to do a regression line. So when we had that picture up, we saw when it moved to the right, it was actually going up. Those associations, those relationships between the X and the Y, we kind of have some terminology that we work with. So here, if you're moving to the right, left to right like we read, and it goes up, we call this a positive linear association. The linear part is that it's going to be, if I kind of imagine this is going to be a straight line through somewhat the middle of the data, okay? If this was kind of starting out flat and then starting changing and going up faster, that would be a nonlinear. The linear means a straight line, okay? So when we go through a negative association, we can have a positive association. A negative, when I go to the right, this thing decreases. But the linear part of it says it's actually a straight line. Here's the straight line. So you can just have something, a positive association, a negative association. And then you can have the linear and then the negative linear. Here's a positive nonlinear association. So it's a positive association, but it's nonlinear. As I go this way, this thing starts to increase, but look, it starts flat and then it goes up. It would be hard for me to draw a straight line through here and get a line in there. Same thing here, negative nonlinear. As I go down here, it starts flattening out. And here, there is no obvious association. Some of these things are back here and high. As I go out here, I still have high ones. And there's no straight line I can get through here. I don't know whether this would be a negative or a positive type association. Okay, so here's your practice problems. Go through and write those as ordered pairs. Work on that, read them off, put these things in. try to go through and construct a scatter plot. This should be able to do, if the scale is correct, you could just label it directly on the scale. Determine which each of these scatter plots, positive linear, negative linear, positive nonlinear, negative nonlinear. So the nonlinear is if you don't think it's a good straight line through there, talk about it. There may be no association, no obvious association. Okay. Just do your best. Some of these things are hard to. It's kind of like an ink plot. Okay, but I did want to, as we go through and I come back and visit you for the second part. I want to pull this back up again. Let me get rid of this. We're going to talk about building a straight line model, and it's basically a regression. Regression is kind of the thing of building a model of data that you've got, and it's pretty easy to do if you just enter all of this stuff in Excel. Do your scatter plot like I told you, and then I'm going to right click, select one of these things, and let me get a right click, add the trend line. That's an imaginary line, but you can now go through and say, give me the model. Here's different types of trend lines that you've got. Positive, positive linear, positive nonlinear. But go down here and do this thing. Display the equation on the chart. I can move this thing around. This is a mathematical model that's built through statistical methods that says, give me the X value and I will predict what the Y value is. Here's the X value and then I'll do the Y. Okay, so we'll look more at that next time. Hope this helps. Do your worksheet and submit it during the week.